Baseball fans, it is time once again for another episode of Planes, Trains, Buses, and Ballparks. With over 50 years in professional baseball and making a multitude of fantastic relationships along the way, Frank Coppenbarger shares great stories with weekly guests from various areas inside of the game. It's all here on the Fans First Sports Network. Let's get ready to play ball. Here's Frank Coppenbarger.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Planes, Trains, Buses, and Ballparks. We got a special episode today. Former longtime big league all-star outfielder Andy Van Slyke joins us. Andy, welcome, man.
Frank, it's good to talk to you. A lot of fond memories that you and I have had over the years, so I appreciate talking to you.
Absolutely, and thanks so much for being willing to join us. And a special thanks on behalf of our producer, both producers, Jeff Hartman and Brian Davis, two lifelong Pirate fans. They are ecstatic over today's show. So
it took them years. It took them a long time to get me. At your dismay. So let's get this finished.
All right, we'll do it. So anyway, out of New Hartford, New York, drafted in the first round by the St. Louis Cardinals right out of high school, 1979.
Yeah.
What can you remember about that day? What was it like?
It was an interesting day. I was sitting in class, and it's my senior year, obviously, and there was a lot of buzz about whether I was going to get drafted in the first round yet. I wasn't really sure. I knew that the Pittsburgh Pirates had the 22nd pick in the first round, and they already said they were going to commit to drafting me because one of the teachers in my high school was actually a bird dog scout for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
How about that?
Yeah. So he knew probably when I was a freshman or sophomore year that I was a pretty good baseball player before anybody else knew it. But my senior year, scouts started showing up. And so in 1979, I ended up being the 6th pick in the draft by the St. Louis Cardinals. And it was sort of a surprise to get picked that early. But I was sitting in my homeroom, and my dad is the principal of the high school where I'm going. So I get this call.
You got called to the principal's office.
I got called to the principal's office, and so I knew what. And I looked at the clock, and I knew the draft started that day, and I went, "Man, this is early." So I sprinted down the hallway. Just sprint all the way from one end of the school to the other. And a couple of teachers saw me running in the hallway and told me to, slow down. I said, no chance. So I keep running. I get to my dad's office, and there's a phone off the hook. And it's the GM from the St. Louis Cardinals, Joe McDonald. He says, "Hey, congratulations. We took you in the first round."
How about that?
Yeah, so he was the first person I talked to in the Cardinal organization. The second person who gets, you're like this, Frank. I don't know if you know this. The second person who gets on the phone is Jack Buck.
Oh, wow.
He's in the office at the time. So he's going to do a live interview on KMOX. Hey, we got Andy Van Slyke on the phone. He's #1 draft pick, blah, blah, blah. And the first question he asked me, in Jack Buck's style, he goes, "So, Andy, Lou Brock's retiring this year. Future Hall of Famer. Are you ready to fill his shoes?"
That was tough. Big league media right out of the gate.
You got to be kidding me. I'm going to replace Lou Brock at 18 years old. What are we talking about here?
I think it's pretty cool that call came through to the school, and your dad being the principal, you got to share that moment with him.
Yeah, it was
right
really.
Then. You didn't even have to wait to get home.
No, it was pretty special.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was one of the coolest days of my life, being drafted and sharing that moment on the phone with my dad. It was really cool.
I never knew that story, actually. So it's you learn something every day, I guess. So anyway, you sign with the Cardinals and you start working your way through their farm system. Talk about some of your stops along the way there.
Well, my first year, I broke my wrist the day after I got drafted, so I didn't play that summer.
Yeah.
So Yeah, that was interesting also because the day before I broke my wrist, the Cardinals offered me quite a bit of money. I thought at the time it's nothing compared to today, but it was at the
Right.
time. And so they did made a business decision and told me, hey, we can't invest a lot of money. So the offer came in at half of was originally because I broke my wrist.
Oh man,
So you talk about learning the business side of baseball right away.
I guess
Yeah.
that's
And so
tough.
I ended up staying home that summer, which is actually the best thing that ever happened in my life was not playing that summer because I got to meet a girl in a very special way that I happened to be married to for over 42 years. So if I hadn't been home with a broken wrist, I probably wouldn't have been. I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you right now, Frank. I can guarantee you that because my wife has been a real light in the darkness of my life. So she's been
Well,
tremendous.
I I can certainly understand that because I've had the pleasure of knowing her for at least 40 years, so
Yeah,
43 years, in fact,
yeah,
since
yeah.
I met you in 1983 when you got called up to the big leagues.
That's
And
right.
I was working in the Cardinals clubhouse, and you got called up. And back in those days, they were trying anything they could to find a spot for you in the lineup with your bat. So you
Yeah.
played outfield a little bit, you played third base, you even played first base once in a while. Talk about that.
Well, you said I played third base. No, I might have played. I might have been in that position.
You were out there. Yeah.
I was out there, uh, but I don't. I wouldn't say I played it very well. But again, the backstory of that is because I only played 35 games at third base in my career. I was an outfielder and a catcher until I got drafted.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I was a catcher, and then they stuck me in the outfield day after I got drafted because I could run, and so they didn't
Yeah.
want to, didn't want to ruin my legs. And so through the minor leagues, I played right field 1 year, I played left field 1 year, and I played center field 1 year, and I spent 3 years in minor leagues just doing that. And then Whitey saw some things that he thought I could help the ball club, but there was no position because he had George Hendrick, Willie McGee, and Lonnie Smith in the outfield, and the fourth outfielder was David Green.
A
So,
highly touted prospect, that's for sure.
yes.
Yeah.
So, I was kind of like the fifth or sixth guy on the totem pole when it came to playing, being an outfielder. So he wanted to find a position for me. So he tried me at third base. And let's just say it didn't work out. Someone asked me once how I played third base, and I said, like Brooks. Not Brooks Robinson, but Mel Brooks.
That's good. That's good.
That's
Well, the
how I
other
played.
side
It
of
was
it,
it was a comedic act over there.
you were trying to break into a lineup that won the World Series the year before too. So
Yeah, it
pretty
was
tough
tough.
for a young player to get any playing time.
Yeah, it was, but the thing that really helped me is I could really, even back then when I was young, I wasn't playing my best defense yet, but I was on my way to playing my best defense in the outfield. I could throw anybody out at any time. I could steal a base. So there were things I could do to help the ball club win
Yeah.
because back then, as fans know, the St. Louis Cardinals were really built on speed and defense. If we didn't have speed and
Absolutely.
defense, we wouldn't have won. So I could do those things. Hitting was probably the third best thing I did at the time.
Did you have a special mentor in the Cardinal organization coming up that worked with you, either hitting or outfield play that you could
There's
recall, a
Frank.
manager or a coach or?
Well, Frank, as no player, especially a young player out of high school who didn't play a whole lot of baseball like I did. I grew up in upstate New York where we didn't play a lot, so
Right.
I didn't really know how to play the game. I was just an instinctive player, but as you know, no player gets to the big leagues without some special people in your lives. And probably the biggest influence in my life was George Kissel. And George Kissel really not only impacted my professional career, but my personal career in ways that I could never repay the man because he taught me how to live on the field and off the field as a professional baseball player.
Well, he even touched the clubhouse guys. It was just one of a kind, special man. Honored to have known him and spent so many years around him, just like you did.
Yeah,
So
he
super guy.
yeah. I'll give you a story that maybe you've heard before from other players, but my first year in Gastonia, which was my first year away from home, I was tearing it up in the first half. I was hitting like 330. You know, out of high school to go right to A ball that's a pretty big deal.
Big deal.
But
Yeah.
but you know, I also was away from home for the first time and kind of let's just say abused my freedom in ways that weren't conducive to my career. And so
Right.
as the season went on, my numbers kept going lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, and I was getting, you know, I was just burning the candle at both ends. You know,
Right.
I was being very immature and stupid. And so one day, George Kissel, towards the end of the season, comes up to me and says, Hey, Andy, you know, you got to talk like this, man. You talk like that Thursday night. He goes,
You got
Hey,
it
Andy.
down.
Yeah, hey, Andy, hey, Vince, like, come over here. Let me tell you something. Have you ever seen a duck and a goose together? I said, what? He goes, Hey, have you ever seen a duck and a goose together? You never see a duck and a goose. It's always a goose and a goose and a duck and a duck. And I said, okay. And I had no idea what he was talking about. So the next day I went up to my manager, Nick Leva, who also had a really good impact on my career.
Right.
Comes up to me and I said, what is George Kissel talking about? He goes, hey, it's who you run. You never see a duck and a goose together because you're hanging out with the geese at night.
You got to hang
So
out with the duck.
you got to hang out with the ducks.
Right.
Be a duck. Don't be a goose and a duck. So it was a really impactful lesson. I said, you know what? He's right. I need to be a duck. I can't be
Yeah.
both.
Right.
And you've seen it with players. You know, players who aren't responsible for the talent and gifts they've been given.
Oh yeah, and they'll find themselves working
Burned
at
out.
Home Depot before you know it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So you
So yeah, that was I would say George Kissel was the number one guy.
and most if not all former Cardinals that I've had the pleasure of interviewing, it's to a man. They all say George Kissel, every one of them.
Yeah, I mean, it
And
doesn't
that's
matter what.
decades worth. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and not only that, it's not only just the Cardinal organization; it's all over. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you work for Jim Fregosi, and Jim Fregosi used to talk about George Kissel, and so
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you got called up in 83 and you stayed with the Cardinals through 86, including that great 85 year where we won the National League Championship. Probably should have been world champs. We definitely had a better team. We didn't have a better team for 7 games, unfortunately.
and we lost. You know, we lost the igniter too. You got to remember that we lost Vince Coleman.
Yeah, exactly. And I had him on a few weeks back, and I said, "You're the fastest person I ever saw. How did you get run over by a tarp that runs 1 mile an hour?"
Because
But
Vince
that
was
hurt the team, because he definitely got it all started right at right in the first inning. So
he got us started in the very first month. You know, you got to remember
yeah,
we started off 1-6 that year, and we're struggling. And he came up and just changed the whole way we went about playing offense.
that's for sure. It was like a track team back in those days.
That's what I always told people. I said, you know, we went to a track meet every night and a baseball game every now and month, you know, broke out.
We missed a great opportunity. We should have had T-shirts that said Cardinals track on it. We
Or
would have
something.
sold thousands of those.
Yeah.
Nobody ever thought of it.
How about the Bush Speedway?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, 39 years ago today, April the 1st, you get called into Whitey Herzog's office down in St. Pete, and they tell you and catcher Mike LaValliere, your longtime teammate, and also promising right-hand pitcher Mike Dunn, another great guy, that you're going to the Pittsburgh Pirates, who were the lowly Pittsburgh Pirates at that time, for Tony Pena. Now, it was April the 1st. So tell me, did you think they were pulling your leg? Was it an April Fool prank, or did
I thought it was
right away?
No, I thought it was. I mean, you were in that clubhouse at the time.
Oh yeah.
And so every day, Whitey would put the lineup card out when you're going through the dugout, and I look up there, and for every game, the first 20 games, it'd say Coleman, Smith, Van Slyke, Clark.
Right.
I was hitting third the whole spring training and having a great spring training, hitting 400. I'm ready to play every day. It's my 4th year in the big leagues. I know I'm ready to play every day. So I come in April 1st and it says Coleman, Smith, blank, Clark. I go, that's interesting. My name's not up there. There's no name in the third slot. So I go out in the field to get warmed up, and Buddy Bates comes out on the field. It's about 8:45. We're getting ready to hit at 9:00. He goes, "Hey, Whitey wants to see you in his office." So I
we
walk
always
in.
had the great assignment of telling the players why do you want you. It's never that they're going to tear up your contract and give you a 10-year deal or anything.
No, it's, hey, Whitey wants to see you, wants to give you an extension. No, that doesn't happen.
No.
It's like going to the principal's office.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Buddy comes up to me and he's got this, look on his face like he's ready to cry. He goes, "Whitey wants to see you." I walk in the clubhouse, and a couple other clubhouse guys already know what's going on before I do, obviously.
Yeah.
So I went into his office and he said, "Hey, Slick, I got some good news and bad news for you." I said, "Okay." He goes, "We traded you." I go, "Oh yeah, right, okay." So I said, "What's the bad news?" He goes, "No, we traded you." He said, "The good news is you're probably going to be able to play every day now." I said, "Whitey, I was ready to play every day for you, dude. Like, what are you talking about?" He goes, "We're trading you to the Pirates." I go, "Now I know you're kidding. I'm going from the outhouse. From the penthouse to the outhouse."
Yeah.
So that's how I felt. The Pirates weren't good. They couldn't draw 1 million people. It was a bad ballpark, and Pittsburgh can't win. And I know we got a great team. We're going to probably be in the World Series again this year.
And the Cardinals were in 1987.
Yeah.
With Tony Pena behind the plate.
Yeah.
But I think we'd have made it either way. It was a heck of a ball club.
When you think about it, Mike LeVar goes to Pittsburgh and wins a Gold Glove that year.
First year, yeah.
First year. So he was a great defensive catcher. He really was.
Absolutely.
Tremendous. So
well, anyway, the trade in the end worked out great for both teams. The Cardinals got Pena. That didn't last nearly as long as you guys lasted in Pittsburgh, but you guys were the nucleus or the beginnings of a really solid Pittsburgh Pirate ball club and the resurgence of the Pirates. And just a couple of years later, you get traded over 87, 8, and 9. You kind of getting there. 1990, the Buccos break through.
Yep.
And the first of 3 NL East championships. And I want to talk to you about all that, but let's take a short break before we continue. And we'll be back with Andy Van Slyke in just a second. All right, we're back with Andy Van Slyke, and even though it seemed like a cruel April Fool's Day joke in today's April Fool's Day, ironically, 39 years later, it wasn't a joke. And Andy, along with Mike LaValliere and promising pitcher Mike Dunn, have been traded to the Pirates, and so now your first impressions of I'm guessing you went to Bradenton, you went over the Skyway Bridge and went to pretty worn out McKechnie Field right out of
worn
the gate.
out.
Not very nice in those days.
Oh my gosh, it was horrible. It was a terrible, terrible spring training facility, and nothing like the players have today. So but going over that Skyway Bridge, Spanky and I I'm driving. I picked up Spanky to go over the Skyway, and we just looked at each other. We looked at me. We said, "Are you kidding me? We're going to the Pirates." The thing is, I wanted to play every day, so it took me a while to get over the sorrow of being traded. To be honest with you, it was a tough day. And the funny thing is, I walked into the clubhouse down in Bradenton. I got my Cardinal bag, and I'm walking in there. I got all my stuff, and you got to go. The first thing you do is when you go through the door, you got to pass the manager's office, and Leland's in there.
Yeah,
he's got his spikes on. He always wore his spikes.
Only manager I think that ever wore spikes in the modern era.
Yeah. Oh, just everywhere. It didn't matter. So
Yeah.
he's got his spikes, and I thought, well, that's kind of strange. I didn't even know who the manager of the Pirates was. I'm walking in and he goes, hey, I'm Jim Leland, the manager of the Pirates. I said, okay. He asked me later, you know even who I was? I said, no. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't pay attention to some rookie manager on the other team. I was too into trying to play every day as the St. Louis Cardinals. So when I got traded over there, I didn't know what to expect, and I
Right.
was really really pleasantly surprised what a great man and manager Jim Leland was.
Well, yeah. You didn't know who he was then, but everybody knows who he is now.
Yeah.
And actually, you had the distinction of playing for two Hall of Fame managers.
Yes.
Talk about Whitey Herzog just a little bit more first, and then I want you to talk about Leland, who I know you just adore. So talk
Yeah.
about them both.
Different relationship, different people. Both incredibly intelligent when it comes to managing a baseball game and knowing the personnel. I would say they communicated their players a little differently than. But as far as managing the game, you couldn't outmanage Jim Leland. You couldn't outmanage Whitey Herzog. They always put the players in the best position to succeed, and I never saw them out get managed, either one of them. So I remember a story once when I went to New York. This is after Keith Hernandez got traded. He came up to me and he says, you know how good a manager you got? I said, no. He goes, well, let's just say one thing. When the game starts, you have 9 players, we have 9 players, but you got the best manager in baseball.
Yeah, that's
So,
true. Yeah.
so it's
And that carried
that's
on for you for a long time.
yeah. I mean, they both really, really knew how to manage a game and manage players. And this is the days when pitchers had to hit and bunt and field, and it was a more complete athletic baseball game than it is today.
Right.
So they both really know how to utilize their bullpens and really utilize their bench players.
Well, I tell you what, you really thrived in Pittsburgh. 5 consecutive Gold Glove seasons, a 3-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger. You had a great lineup over there. You, Bonds, and Bonilla, what an outfield, and a bunch of other really good players too. Talk about your years over there, and when you guys
Well,
broke through and won, and you fell a little short in the playoffs, but by God, you were a good ball club.
well, Frank, you can remember the days when winning your division was the hardest thing to do in baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you had to win your division before the wild card to get in the playoffs.
To get
So
in at all. Yeah.
yeah, so the fact that we won that division 3 years in a row, it says a lot more than making the playoffs today 3 years in a row, because you can make it as a second wild card now. I mean, not that it's
Right.
good or bad. I'm just saying the difficulty of winning
Harder.
3 in a row is much more difficult than it is today. So we were a very 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 good ball club and good enough to win the World Series at least 2 out of those 3 years that we won the pennant. But as you know, things don't always work out the way they should.
Well, kind of
And
like the 85 Cardinals and even the 87 Cardinals were way better than the Minnesota Twins, but they didn't have Jack Clark in the lineup. In the
no,
World Series, they didn't have Pendleton. That's 2 pretty big pieces right there.
there's very big pieces. There's no way you can make up for that over 7 games. Now you might get
No.
away with it, a game or two, but
Yeah.
and then and
Same
you
with you
just
guys
yeah.
down
I mean,
with the Pirates.
yep. I mean,
Something swings the wrong way, and next thing you know, the thing's over with, and you're heading home.
that's right. I mean, everybody remembers that famous Sid Bream slide at home.
Yeah.
Well, he shouldn't even been on base, but
Yeah.
that's because the umpire, if we had the strike zone today, we would have won. If we had replay, the funny thing is, if we had replay, I would
Won
have
2 of them.
maybe 2 World Series. I might be wearing 2 rings, but because there's no replay,
You're
because
right.
there was a call that cost us not only in the '85 World Series, but also in the playoffs against the Braves.
Yeah, exactly. So you stayed with the Buccos through 94, 8 years over there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Overall, what's your memories?
um, I think my biggest memory is the resurgence of baseball in Pittsburgh. There's in a
Yeah.
lot of ways I thought that. I mean, there were rumors of the Pirates leaving Pittsburgh for years and years and years,
Yeah.
and pretty close. I think if we hadn't done what we did in the '90s, there might not be baseball in Pittsburgh. And we realized that, we drew over 2 million people for the first time in Pittsburgh, and so with that ballpark and with success that the Pirates haven't had since the new ballpark, it could be a very, very special place because people showed up at the Three Rivers because we were good.
Right.
People are going to show up at your ballpark because they're good. It's nice to have a nice aesthetic ballpark like Pittsburgh has. I think maybe the best aesthetic ballpark in all of baseball, but people aren't going to show up if you're not any good. So we proved baseball can flourish in Pittsburgh if you put a good team on the field.
Well,
And I think that was the biggest thing that I come away was helping the Pirates do that.
You certainly did. Well, I'll tell you now that you mentioned that, I'll tell you a little story of one of my assignments when I was with the Cardinals. Before you got called up, there was a period of time when Whitey was the manager and the general manager.
General manager, yeah.
So it was the off season, and he was flying out, and he wanted a ride to the airport, and it was pretty early in the morning. And Joe McDonald was his assistant. So I got to the ballpark. I was going to take him to the airport, and I'm walking down the hallway. Whitey was a little hard of hearing, so he talked real loud, and I heard him say, "Oh, he'll be here any second. You ain't got to worry about Frank." And I no sooner he said that, I turned into the office, and he had a binder about that thick of like all these projections of how many fans will draw and how many tickets will sell and this and that. And he took it and he threw it in the trash right in front of me. He goes, "I don't need any of that blankety blank.
Yeah.
We win. There won't be enough seats for them." And that was certainly the truth.
Wow.
Just like the Pirates.
That's so true. I mean, there's nothing that replaces. You can do all the promotions you want. You can give all the giveaways you want. Give away all the funny bird hats and whatever you want to do. Give it. But I'm telling you what, when you win, they show up and they don't really care what they're going to get at the gate when they walk in. They want to get something for their money, and that's an effort and a winning team.
Well, when I started with the Phillies, they weren't very good.
No.
And that was 89, my first year over there. And honestly, the biggest crowd, the opening day crowd was not good at all. The biggest crowds in Philadelphia back then to watch bad team was the 4th of July fireworks. And the Fanatic's birthday. Those were the days,
Yeah.
And then, I was around long enough to see them sell out 257 straight games where there was a line 3 blocks long to buy standing room every day.
And it wasn't because they're Fanatic.
Because they were winning.
Exactly.
Because they were winning the division and going to the World Series. So,
I wish the Pirates would learn that lesson. If you win, they'll show up. You'll make more money. Just invest a little bit.
Absolutely will.
So
it'll cost them more, but they'll make more. You're right.
That's right.
So,
invest in the future, baby.
So you signed as a free agent with the Orioles, and about little past midway through the season, you and I meet up again in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a good team to join up with in those days, but you played out what turned out to be the last part of your playing career with the Phillies. And then as I recalled, and I looked this up, you went to camp with the Cardinals in 86. And you had
97.
97. You went to camp and you were having a great spring.
Yeah.
And then you got hurt. And then there was some disagreements about your contract situation, promises and things like that. I guess that's probably the best way to say it. And it just didn't work out. So you went home. At that point, you were already in St. Louis.
Yeah.
You went because you've lived there ever since you played for the Cardinals.
That's right.
And you and Lori went on to raise your kids. You've got 4 sons.
That's right.
AJ, Scott, Jared, and Nathan. And we should mention a lot of athletic ability in that family. AJ played in the Cardinal farm system a few years.
Yep.
Scott played in the big leagues. Jared, I didn't realize this, played college football, not just anywhere, the University of Michigan.
Not too
That's
bad.
a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And your son, Nathan, I don't have anything on him athletically, but I'm guessing he probably played in high school and
well, here's the thing,
too.
Frank. He was a really, really good tight end football player.
Yeah.
And he had 3 older brothers that convinced him not to play college football.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And one of them that had played college football.
Yeah. So that's because he had nine screws in his shoulder.
Okay.
from shattering his Jared shattered his collarbone in practice trying to tackle a tight end as a 200-pound quarter guy. That's not going to work.
No.
They convinced him that it was best for him to go to school and get his degree, and so that's what he did. Nathan was. I'm glad he didn't play that tight end football stuff in college because he ended up getting a nice degree from SMU, and now he works for Price Waterhouse. So it's all good.
All is well. That's for sure. Good. Well, I got to mention this a near tragedy to your family involving Jared. In spring training in Bradenton. Talk about this a little bit. This is something I had forgotten over all the years, but through the grace of God, he's not only here, he had a perfectly normal life, and as you said, played college football for the Michigan Wolverines. But talk about this story because I don't think many folks know it.
Yeah, it just shows you how precious life is and how it can be just shut out in a second. I was in spring training and I was at my mother-in-law's house and they have a hot tub. It's a retirement place and they have a hot tub in there. And so my brother-in-law's over there. My son, Jared, is there. He's 3, maybe 4. I don't remember exactly his age, but my older sons were over there and they're in the pool. And so the hot tub's on the other side. And, apparently he wandered off and got in the hot tub and went under. And we don't know how long he was under the water in the hot tub. And my son Scott steps on him in the hot tub. He happens to go over the hot tub at the time. Nobody's really looking for him because at a pool everybody's talking, whatever. Right. And he steps on him, and he pulls him out of the hot tub, and he's out. And so my brother-in-law, who just came back from Desert Storm at the time, knows how to do CPR. So he does CPR on him, gets him to breathe again. They call the ambulance and they take him to the hospital. And his face is all broken out. I guess when you start holding your breath, you get all these little. So it looks like he's all bruised up in his face. And it turns out that we have no idea how long he was under there, but the doctor said he was probably pretty close to not coming back. So. My brother-in-law helped. It's a good thing my son stepped on him in the hot tub.
Yeah, I mean,
didn't even see him, just stepped on him.
All this, yeah.
But the funniest thing about that day, I mean, I always try to find humor and everything. He's sitting there and they're taking blood out of his arm, my son, and he looks at the doctor and says, "I want my blood back." I mean, they're taking off. He's crying, "I want my blood back. Don't take my blood." So we started laughing, and we knew he was fine after that. So
that's great. That's great. Only spent one night in the hospital, it's my understanding.
That's it. This observation, make sure you didn't go into a coma. So
thank God for that miracle that just enough people were around.
He was protected. He was protected. It wasn't his time. It just wasn't his time. So now he's on his way to have his 4th kid here pretty soon. So
there you go. So yourself, after you raise your kids, pretty much anyway, in 2006, you're back in the game as first base coach for Jim Leland.
Yeah.
with the Tigers, and talk about that.
Frank, as a player, you get so focused on yourself, how you feel, when you're going to eat. There's, as you know, there's a lot of distractions, and
Yeah.
you think you really know the game, and you really think you know your teammates, and you really think you know how things. I tell you what, when you become a coach, you get to see another side of the game that you never saw as a player. So I really got to appreciate, and I wish I had done this for Whitey too. I wish I'd actually coached for Whitey to see how he coached and managed
Right.
outside the sights of everybody else. And when you get to see that, you get to see how Jim Leland interacts with the GM and the coaches. You learn that guys like Jim Leland and Whitey Herzog are a rare breed to know how to handle everything right. And Jim Leland taught me more, as a manager, as a coach, than as a player. He just was really spot on. He knew all his players. He talked to his players every day. He could get a sense of whether they're really prepared that day. He did everything right, and so you don't always get to see that as a player because you're so self-focused.
Well, Leland had toiled in the minor leagues for a long time. And I'm going to tell you a story you don't know. I grew up in Decatur, Illinois, and we had a minor league club of the San Francisco Giants for many years when I was a kid in the Midwest League. And I met Jim Leland in 1972. I was working around the ballpark, and my mom and dad had a small gift shop in the hotel where all the visiting teams stayed. And Jim Leland was managing the Tigers single A club in Clinton, Iowa. That's how long I've known him.
Wow.
Since 72.
Yeah.
And a few years later in 79, now I'm working for the Cardinals when they had the AAA club in Springfield, Illinois. And Leland's managing Evansville in the Tiger organization and won the league by I should mention that too. They by far and away had the best club in the league. So that year, but marvelous manager and great person too.
Well, the thing about him, he did everything. He told me that he knew he was a terrible ball player. He was lucky to sign it all, to have any professional at bats. He said he was worse than anybody, but he ended up wanting to stay in baseball. He told me he actually raked the field and drove the bus the first couple of years he was a manager in baseball. That's how things have changed. I
certainly believe it. Yeah.
He drove the bus.
Yeah. Amazing. So after you're with Detroit, a few years later, one of your old teammates, Lloyd McClendon, is the manager of the Seattle Mariners. And so you were the first base coach for the Mariners for a couple years too.
Yeah, that was a good time. We didn't win like we did in Detroit, but it was really good to work for a guy that actually was your ex-teammate, and so to get to see him manage the way he managed, the way he went about his business, it's pretty interesting. He did a lot of things that Julian used to try to do as a manager. And so he learned from the best.
Good guy to copy, no doubt.
That's right. And so we fell short by one game making the wild card. So it might have been a couple more years if we had won, but Seattle was making changes at the time. So I ended up being there for 2 years.
So after that, you kind of out of the game, at least officially. I read where you authored a couple of books. Actually, while you were working. The Tiger Confidential, and then a fictional book on the Cubs winning the World Series.
That's before they did.
And then they ended up doing it.
Yeah.
I wish
they hadn't because we could have made a nice movie out of the book. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, no Cardinal can ever wish the Cubs do anything. So that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Well, you frequently appear on St. Louis radio and TV discussing sports and, of course, baseball. And you live in a town which is really pretty special.
It is.
There are dozens of former Cardinal players and big league players that live in St. Louis. So whenever there's a golf outing, there's no shortage of alumni.
No.
That's for sure.
There was something like 40 guys at opening day.
Yeah.
Something like that. So it shows you that the Cardinal organization's done a good job of staying in touch with their former players.
Well, and I think people, when they came there to play, realized it was a special town. And like yourself, you and Lori, you moved there, you get called up, and you never left.
No.
43 years later, you're still living there.
So, it's pretty interesting. A lot of guys from that era did end up staying here, and that was a lot to do with Whitey. Whitey thought it was really important for players to live in the town that they played in. And I guess it really depends where you're from. I mean, I wasn't going to go back up to upstate New York anyway. So, I mean, why not start your home right there where you work? So that had a lot to do with it also.
Understandable. Yeah. Well, listen, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I know my Bucko buddies that are co-producers are just thrilled beyond words here to see you.
I really appreciate it, but to let them know that they're going to be just fine this year as long as they win more games than the Cardinals, which I think will happen this year. The Pirates got some studs, so they're going to be all right.
Looks like they're kind of on the way, maybe. They got to keep that Skeens guy around there, that's for sure.
Yeah, keep him and keep that good pitching that they got. They just need a couple bats and they'll be fine. So I just hope that owner can, reach in his back pocket and take the moss out of it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Andy, thanks so much for joining us. Next week's guest, former longtime baseball scout Tim Kistner, will join us. And folks, please like, follow, and subscribe to the Fans First Sports Network, and check out our website, Planes, Trains, Buses, and Ballparks.com. And we'll see you again next week.
Nice talking to you, Frank.
You too, Andy. Thanks, man.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Planes, Trains, Buses, and Ballparks with Frank Coppenbarger. Tune in next week for another great episode on the Fans First Sports Network.